So I suggested in my last Giants video that I might do something like this, grading every Dave Gettleman move as the GM. Not every move, but every somewhat significant move as the Giants GM since he took over at the end of 2017. And I got a few comments saying they would love to see that, so that's what we're doing today. So I went back, looked at all the moves, gave them an appropriate grade in my opinion. You guys know I'm not the biggest fan of this guy, but I tried to be, fair, objective, and gave him, the grades that I thought the moves deserved and stuff like that. No face cam this video. I thought it was not necessary. There's going to be a lot of graphics and just, pictures of the players I'm talking about, so there's really no need for that. So at the end of the video, I also included a what could have been type of depth chart for the Giants in 2019, because a lot of people say, oh, the guy had no chance to build a good team. Well, turns out that's not actually correct. So we'll get into it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hopefully you guys don't hate on this video too much, but I'm sure some people will. But anyway, let's get into it. So Dave Gettleman was hired as the Giants general manager on December 28th, 2017. He was taking over a team that was at the time 2-13. They had a ton of injuries, a declining franchise quarterback. The first thing Gettleman did as a general manager was cut the right tackle Bobby Hart, who refused to play in the Week 17 game anyway, so that was an easy one. But it was nice to see a GM come in here, put his foot down, and take no crap, honestly, from a guy like Bobby Hart. So I like seeing that. Before we even get started, I want to say that it was Gettleman who wanted to hire Pat Shurmur. I know a lot of you people hate Pat Shurmur, so let's look at the guy who hired him. It was Dave Gettleman, so I'm not saying it's all his fault because I personally like the Pat Shurmur hire, but that has to be included as well. So the 2018 offseason was a huge one for the Giants, especially having the second overall pick coming off a 3-13 season. So these were some of the moves that Gettleman performed in the offseason. He released guys like the punter Brad Wing, the veteran cornerback Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, the punt returner Dwayne Harris, and of course the wide receiver Brandon Marshall. That never worked out. So here's some notable players that he let walk after that offseason. So there was the guard Justin Pugh, a former first-round pick for the Giants, signed with Arizona for 4 years, $45 million. In 2018, he missed 9 games, but right now has played in every game in 2019 with a 65.8 PFF grade. I honestly don't blame him for letting Justin Pugh walk. I personally wanted him back at the right price, but that was a bit pricey, and the guy still has some injury concerns, so I don't blame Gettleman for that one. The center, Weston Richburg, signed a 5-year, $47.5 million deal. In 2018, played 15 games for San Fran at center, had a 51 PFF grade. That's not so good. In 2019, he's played every game with a 57 PFF grade. Also not that great. The guard, DJ Fluker, signed a 1-year deal for $1.5 million with Seattle. He's currently with Seattle as well. He missed 6 games in 2018, had a 50 PFF grade. This season has started 8 games so far with a 60 PFF grade, so that's a lot better, but honestly, don't blame him there either. The outside linebacker, Devon Kennard, he signed with the Detroit Lions for 3 years, $18 million. In 2018, he started 15 games, had 7 sacks, and a 62 PFF grade. In 2019, he has started every game so far, has 4 sacks, and a 67 PFF grade. So this one bothered me because they could have spent an extra $3 million to keep him, but they decided to have Kareem Martin replace him instead of keeping Devon Kennard. The defensive end, Romeo Okwara, was cut. He was picked up by Detroit in 2018 at a 64 PFF grade with 7.5 sacks, which would have led the Giants team last year, embarrassingly, but it's true. And in 2019, he's been more of a rotational player, but still has a 68 PFF grade. He also let guys like Ross Cockrell walk, who's having a decent year in Carolina, and safety Darian Thompson, who plays some free safety for the Dallas Cowboys and has a 70 PFF grade. So now we'll get into his 2018 free agent signings. We start with the first one, Jonathan Stewart, 2 years, $6.8 million. That one is graded an F for me, obviously. He was terrible in the preseason, barely played in the regular season, just a waste of money. Don't know why they did that move. The second one is outside linebacker Kareem Martin, 3 years, $15 million. I gave that one a C-. They essentially replaced Devon Kennard for him, and Devon Kennard's had a much better last 2 years than Kareem Martin. Martin's been on the IR since week 1 this year, so definitely I have to give that one a bad grade. I give it a C-. The guard, Patrick Omameh, gave him a 3-year, $15 million contract to play right guard. That one's an F for me. He was released in the middle of last year. It was terrible. He was benched at one point, just an awful signing overall. Left tackle, Nate Solder, 4 years, $62 million. Of course, that's a big one, a lot of money. I didn't blame Gettleman when it happened, and so far, I don't blame him either. I mean, it's not Gettleman's fault that Nate Solder's played like absolute garbage. So I give Gettleman a C+ for that one. Of course, the production on the field has not been great. But if I was the GM, I'd probably do the same thing because they needed a left tackle heading into the 2018 season. The safety, Curtis Riley, 1 year, $600,000. I give that one an F. They cut Andrew Adams and Darian Thompson to fill that void, or to basically have Curtis Riley fill their spots. Andrew Adams and Darian Thompson are better players than Curtis Riley, so there was no point of that. I give that move an F. The defensive end, Josh Morrow, 1 year, $600,000. I give that one a D. He did cut Romeo Okwara, who had 7.5 sacks last year, to have a guy like Josh Morrow, who really wasn't doing much. So another one, a cornerback, B.W. Webb, 1 year, $800,000, played a pretty significant role for the Giants. He was starting last year at some point. I give that one a D+. He was really not that good of a player. He tried signing William Gay from the Steelers, but he was very old at that time and really had nothing left, so he didn't even play a legitimate regular season game for the Giants. Wide receiver Cody Latimer, 1 year, $2.5 million. I gave that one a B. He's been a pretty solid player for the Giants so far. He's done everything you can ask him to do. Hasn't been amazing, so I don't give him an A, but I'll give him a B for that one. I also give him a B for the safety, Michael Thomas, who's been a nice surprise, especially with the special teams. He's made some nice plays at safety as well. He signed him to a 2-year, $4 million contract. That was a nice find. And of course, he re-signed wide receiver Odell Beckham to a massive extension of 5 years, $95 million. So at the time, I would give that move an A, but obviously my opinion changes after he was traded less than a year later. So he also made a couple of trades in that offseason. So he traded Jason Pierre-Paul, the defensive end, and a 4th-round pick, 102 overall, to the Buccaneers to receive a 3rd-round pick, number 69 overall, and a 4th-round pick, number 108 overall. So I would give that trade a B. JPP is still good. He had 12.5 sacks last year, which obviously would have been very nice production, but they were not a JPP away from being a good defense last year, so I don't blame him for trying to get the picks. They also gained a 3rd-rounder and avoided his big contract, so I give that move a B. I like that one, but still, Jason Pierre-Paul, I know he's a bit older now. I think he's 30 years old, but he's still a pretty productive player, so I can't give him an A for that one. Alec Ogletree, this one of the worst ones I've seen. So the Giants traded a 4th-round pick for Alec Ogletree, who was slated to make $42 million over the next 4 seasons and had a very high cap hit until 2020 when they can finally release him. So I give that one a D, not actually an F, because they did need an inside linebacker. Gettleman just happened to trade for the wrong one. The Rams couldn't wait to get rid of that guy, and they definitely did it for a good cost. You get a 4th-rounder for a guy that you did not want. So I just hated the move. Paying him way too much money. His production is terrible. A lot of Giants fans were fooled because the guy had 5 interceptions last year, but even I was like, you can't sustain 5 interceptions as an inside linebacker. So this year, he's been awful. Even last year wasn't that good, and I think we're all seeing it now. So now on to the 2018 NFL Draft. The Giants held the 2nd overall pick, as I mentioned before. They had a 37-year-old quarterback in Eli Manning, who has obviously been declining at that point for 2 years, in my opinion, since 2016. It was supposedly a great quarterback class with Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, and even Lamar Jackson, who some people thought should play wide receiver. Of course, that's a big mistake looking at it now. So with this Giants team looking like a rebuilding roster, there were fans that wanted a quarterback or some that wanted to trade down. That was the most logical things to do. You look at the Colts. The Colts owned the number 3 pick in that draft, but they traded down to number 6 with the Jets and gained 3 second-round picks in the process. So Gettleman, on the other hand, would not even pick up the phone for trade offers and took the generational running back Saquon Barkley out of Penn State. Like any logical person, I've acknowledged that Barkley is a tremendous talent, but here's the problem with the move. I've listed 3 things. Number 1, this team was way more than a great running back away from competing. Number 2, they could have received a great haul for the 2nd overall pick, landing a lot more draft picks. Number 3, the running back position is heavily reliant on the offensive line, the quarterback, and the scheme, which the Giants lacked in every area. So in an alternate universe, the Giants could have swapped picks with the Jets and added 3 more second-round picks. The Giants could have received number 6 overall, number 37, number 49, and a 2019 second-rounder just to move back 4 spots. But Gettleman thought they'd compete in 2018. If the Giants had pulled the trigger on a trade, they could have came back with much more talent. Here's what it could have looked like in 2018 if they pulled the trigger on that trade that the Colts and Jets did. So pick number 6 could have been the left guard Quentin Nelson, possibly the best guard in football. He'll be one of the best guards in football for a long time. Pick number 34. Okay, you want your running back? Get Nick Chubb out of Georgia at 34 overall. He's still a great running back. He's not as good as Saquon, but Nick Chubb's a terrific running back. Currently leads the NFL in rushing yards, by the way. Pick number 37 could have been the linebacker Harold Landry, who's currently with the Titans, a really good player. Giants could have had an inside linebacker for the next decade with that pick, but unfortunately that's not what happened. And pick number 49 could have been an offensive lineman, Connor Williams, who's now with the Cowboys, who plays guard. He's a really good player for them as well. I believe he's currently injured for a few weeks, but still, he's a really good player. Would have been a nice pick at number 49 overall. So then in 2019's draft, they would have had an extra second-round pick in this trade as well. They could have gotten a guy like cornerback Greedy Williams, or they could have gotten the right tackle in Jawan Taylor. Obviously, Gettleman could have had way more assets acquired if he traded back, but he chose the running back, so this is how we'll grade it out. So round 1, number 2 overall, Saquon Barkley. I give the pick a C. The guy's a tremendous player, a really good leader. Just did not make sense at the time to make that pick. I understand in certain circumstances you're allowed to pick a running back very high in the draft. It did not make sense for the Giants to do it. You cannot talk me out of it, so don't even try saying anything. Round number 2, I said this was my favorite pick in the draft when it happened, back when I was making videos way back in the day, a whole 2 years ago. Gave this one an A+ for Will Hernandez. Very good left guard in the NFL. Has a chance to even grow even more. He's, seems like he's been getting better since last year, so hopefully he keeps improving. Round 3, Lorenzo Carter, the outside linebacker. I give this one a B-. He's shown some signs that he can flourish into a much better player. He's been inconsistent at times, but there's been also some times where he's made some great plays. So I give that one a B-. The guy has a lot of potential. Round 3 from Tampa Bay, and with the Jason Pierre-Paul trade, they got defensive tackle B.J. Hill. Last year, I probably would have graded this one like a A-, but right now it's looking like a C. He had a really good rookie year, but the guy barely plays now. His playing time has diminished week by week so far this season, so that one's a C for me. Round number 4, Kyle Lauletta, the quarterback from, I think, Richmond or something like that. I give this one an F. They let this guy throw 5 passes in the NFL. It was a waste of a draft pick. He's currently unemployed, I think, or maybe on some practice squad. I don't know, but he's on the Giants roster anymore. Round number 5, R.J. McIntosh, the defensive lineman, defensive tackle, whatever you want to call him. I give this one a C+. We haven't seen too much of him, but he's made some plays this year that may lead you to believe that he has a decent future in this league. And round number 3 in the supplemental draft, Sam Beal, the cornerback. I give this one a C right now. He missed his first 25 eligible career games. He finally made his debut on last Monday Night Football, so that was good to see. But right now, you really can't say anything about Sam Beal. I mean, of course, it sucks he missed his first year and a half in the NFL, but you can't give this guy a solid grade right now because he has not played enough yet. So instead of going for the full rebuild in 2018, Gettleman went all in with Eli Manning, and it failed mightily. That's another issue I have with people blaming Jerry Reese. So if Gettleman really couldn't win with Jerry Reese's roster, why didn't he try to trade away everybody in the 2018 offseason? He could have tried to trade away Damon Harrison in the offseason, Eli Apple in the offseason. He tried to, maybe Olivier Vernon, even Odell Beckham before he signed him to a big contract. There's a lot of guys, Landon Collins, that he could have tried to trade away, but Gettleman thought this was a win-now roster, so I don't know why we're completely blaming Jerry Reese. I understand the guy did not draft too well, but he still had some decent players on this roster, and Gettleman decided to go all in with basically the same roster. So part of this is also John Mayer's fault. That has to be said as well, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So the Giants had a bad season. They started 1-7 going into their bye. They rattled off 4 wins in the second half. All 4 of those second half wins were against backup quarterbacks, but a win's a win, I guess. During the season, they traded defensive tackle Damon Harrison and a troubling young cornerback in Eli Apple. So in the Damon Harrison trade, the Giants acquired a 5th-round pick to trade Damon Harrison, who's had a 65 PFF grade in 2019. I give this one a B. You're not going to acquire a high pick for a guy like Damon Harrison, who's just strictly a run stopper. It's a passing league in 2019. I understand you're probably not going to get like a 2nd or 3rd round pick for a guy like that. He's still on a big contract as well, so I get where Gettleman's coming from with that one. I can't give it an A, but I'll give it a B. Eli Apple trade. So far, Eli Apple's been playing well this year, which kind of annoys me. He's had a 70 PFF grade in 2019, which is great. They acquired a 4th round pick for him and a 2020 7th round pick. So I give this one a B as well. I loved it when it happened. I would have traded Eli Apple for basically anything at that point. To get a 4th rounder and a 7th rounder for him, I thought was a good move, so I give it a B. The only reason I'm not saying A is because so far the Saints have made good use of him, and he's played some good cornerback for them. So they finished the year at 5-11. They held the 6th overall pick in the draft. So if I had to grade Gettleman's first full season as the Giants GM, I'd give it a D. I was not expecting much in my opinion, but when the GM tells you he's only a few pieces away from competing and decides to go all in and then ends up going 5-11, it says a lot about you. If Gettleman told us in the press conference, I'm going to start over, bring my own guys in and stuff like that, and he went 5-11, I would understand it. But don't tell us you're going all in and then go 5-11 and look completely embarrassing. That's not a good look for you, so he gets a D in my opinion. He tried making the playoffs, he went 5-11, he let talent walk out the door for nothing, and then signed some garbage replacements. You talk about letting Devon Kennard go, and then signing a guy, I don't even know his name, Kareem Martin, and then you have Curtis Riley filling in at safety. There were some just bad moves by the guy, and then you let a guy like Romeo Okwara walk for nothing. There were just some dumb moves, and it has to be acknowledged. So I give the guy a D for his first full season as Giants general manager. So we move on to the 2019 offseason now. So Gettleman re-signs Alex Tanney, Aldrick Rosas, John Halapio, Spencer Pulley, Eli Penny, Cody Latimer, Benny Fowler, and Russell Shepard. Those were the main ones. So he made some big personnel moves as well. He let Landon Collins walk. He could have franchise tagged him for $11 million. That at the time made sense to me, but I guess I understand why he didn't do it. But we know later why he didn't do it. So the Odell and Vernon trade. So the Giants received the right guard Kevin Zeitler, who had 3 years and $32 million remaining on his contract. Good player in my opinion, but does make a lot of money, so that has to be acknowledged as well. Young safety, former first-round pick Jabril Peppers, who's 23 years old, pick number 17 and pick number 95 in the draft. The Browns went on to receive wide receiver Odell Beckham, who would take a $16 million dead cap hit on the Giants roster in 2019, so that's definitely not good management right there. And Olivier Vernon, who had an $8 million dead cap hit, so $24 million in dead cap right there for guys that Dave Gettleman traded away. So I would give the trade a B minus, I should say. The pros, you get a stud right guard who makes a lot of money, though, a local kid playing safety with a ton of potential, and then 2 draft picks in Dexter Lawrence and O'Shane Ximines, and hopefully become very effective NFL players. I like what I've seen from Lawrence so far. O'Shane had a good start to the year, but he's kind of hit a wall in the last few weeks or so. So we'll see exactly what happens in the future with that guy. It's too early to tell. The cons, you let 2 very talented players go. They eat $24 million in dead cap space, as I said. You now have no wide receiver 1 on your roster, and your best pass rusher, who was Olivier Vernon, is now gone. A lot of Giants fans don't like Olivier Vernon. I know he wasn't on the field all that much, but when he was out there, he was a very effective player, and of course, same thing with Odell Beckham. So Eli Manning. Gettleman had a chance to release Eli Manning last summer and save $17 million and put that towards defensive talent, which is much needed on this team, obviously. Gettleman keeps him and preaches that this could be a KC or Green Bay model, quote-unquote. The $17 million that Eli ends up taking for only 2 starts could have been to upgrade the defense, as I said before. So I give this one a D. It made no sense to me. It seemed like for a long time Gettleman knew that Daniel Jones was his guy, so why even keep him if he's going to make a couple starts and then you take Daniel Jones at number 6 overall? That made no sense to me. You could have saved money and you could have signed some extra guys to your defense. The Sterling Shepard extension, 4 years, $41 million. I give this one a B. It was a good price. I've said all along, I don't think the guy's a number 1 receiver. I think he's a number 2 receiver in the NFL, so you're not solving your problems with the alpha receiver. But still, Sterling Shepard's a good player. It was a good price. He now has some major concussion issues. He might not play the rest of the year, so we couldn't have seen it coming. I can't blame Gettleman, so I'm going to be fair, and I'll still give him a B for that signing. The free agent signings, safety Antoine Bethea, 2 years, $6 million, age 35. Gettleman mentioned in a press conference that he does not take age into account, which I find hilarious when he's signing free agents. Yeah, it shows here. The guy has been terrible this year, does not make tackles, does not take good angles. This one's an obvious F in my opinion. This one was a good one. Outside linebacker Marcus Golden, 1 year, $3 million. It was a prove-it deal for him, and he's definitely proved a lot so far. He's been their best pass rusher. I give this one an A+. Nice job there. Wide receiver Golden Tate, 4 years, $37 million. He's 31, but still a good player in my opinion. He's a great weapon for Daniel Jones. He's definitely the type of receiver that Daniel Jones can work with. I give this move a B. Right tackle Mike Remmers, 1 year, $2.5 million, age 30. He did have back surgery in the offseason, and now he's injured, I should say, so that's why it was risky, but I give this move a B-. You needed a right tackle, and when he's been on the field, he's been pretty good for the most part. Now on to the 2019 draft results. All right, so pick number 6, Daniel Jones. I'm sure all of us would have given this an F at first. It's looked pretty good so far. So, I mean, some people still comment they don't think Daniel Jones is any good. I think that's stupid. I think he'll be absolutely fine. I give this an A-. It's not an A+ because of the fumbling issues and turnover issues and stuff like that. But I still think he has the potential to be a really good quarterback, so I give this one an A-. Pick 17 was Dexter Lawrence. I give it a B+ because Dexter Lawrence, while he does get pressures and he's a good run stopper, he's not a guy who shows up in the stat sheet really too much. He does not get sacks. I understand he gets pressure and all that kind of stuff, but he's not like a big impact player in my mind. But he's a nice player to have on a good defense, which we hopefully have one day. Pick number 30, DeAndre Baker. They traded pick number 37, pick number 132, and number 142 to move up 7 spots to take him. So this one, right now, I give a C. I mean, DeAndre Baker seemed like in the beginning of the year was completely lost, got a little bit better in like weeks 3, 4, and 5, and then fell off once again. He's admitted he does not know the playbook too well, and it's right now not looking good. So I give it a C right now, but we still don't know yet. Pick number 95, O'Shane Ximines. You guys know I loved O'Shane in college. I was very happy when they took him. I give this one a B right now. We don't know what he's going to be yet, but we'll see what happens in the future. Pick number 108, Julian Love. So grade, I can't even say. I put I don't know for this one because he hasn't really played much. He's played like a handful of snaps, I feel like, so far this year, but he can't play over Antoine Bethea. It's definitely concerning, so I don't know why he can't do that, but whatever. So we'll see in the future exactly what happens. Pick number 143, Ryan Conley. I give this one an A-. Unfortunately, tore his ACL this year, but when he played and had like his 3 or 4 starts, looked like a very productive player, and hopefully he comes back in the future and continues to play some good inside linebacker for us. Pick number 171, the wide receiver Darius Slayton. I give this one an A. He has showed up in a big way since being put in the lineup. Basically, he's been a very good player. He's made some very nice jump ball plays and just taking balls to the house. I think he has like 5 touchdowns already this year, so he looks like a legit player. I don't think he'll ever be a wide receiver 1 in the NFL, but still, it's a good player to have, a good deep threat. I give this move an A, especially for where they got him. Pick number 180, Corey Ballantyne. I give this one a B. He's a guy at a small school. It was definitely some good scouting that went into it, so to pick him was a good move. We saw him play a lot in the preseason. He was pretty impressive for the most part. He's been good on kick returns, and he still needs to play more, obviously. We'll see what happens in the future with him, but I think for pick number 180, it's a good talent right there, so I give it a B. The Jones pick over Josh Allen, I mean, we still need an answer for that one. I mean, Daniel Jones right now definitely looks like the right pick, but the Giants still don't have an alpha pass rusher, so we'll see if that move comes back to haunt them in the future, so that can't be answered right now. And even taking a player like Dexter Lawrence over left tackle Andre Dillard, so that's definitely in question as well. The Giants definitely needed a left tackle. We know that now because Nate Solder's not that good, but in the offseason, I see where Gettleman's coming from. You had Nate Solder. You thought he was going to be good, but taking Dexter Lawrence over a guy that could have been your future left tackle and Andre Dillard, who's currently with the Eagles, might have been a better pick looking back on it, but whatever. So the last cuts entering 2019. So why trade B.J. Goodson? They could use him now. I thought that was kind of a dumb move when it happened. I mean, they obviously have a lot of injuries at linebacker or inside linebacker specifically, so I think B.J. Goodson, who, while he's not a tremendous player, is definitely a decent player, and they could have been using him right now. The Leonard Williams trade, so this is like one of the most recent moves. The Giants traded for Leonard Williams, an expiring contract who might demand $8 to $12 million annually in the offseason when his contract expires. The Giants gave up a 3rd round pick, but a very, very early 3rd round pick, so that might not be good news for us. So part of the reason I don't like this is because Leonard Williams has all the leverage. He's not going to walk away from the Giants saying like, oh, well, you traded for me, so you have to give me all this money or else I'll just walk away and make you look like an idiot. So he has all the leverage in this situation right now. Who knows what kind of money he'll get in the offseason. That one's like to be determined in my mind, but the Giants right now have a very early 3rd round pick, so that might be a very good trade for the Jets looking back on it. So the Giants currently sit 2-8 in their bye week in Week 11. Overall, for Gettleman, I think he gets a C- in my opinion, mainly because it looks like he found our future franchise quarterback, so that's why I did not give him like a D or an F or anything like that. So at least he made that pick for us. He's made some nice moves. I like guys like Darius Slayton, Will Hernandez, all that kind of stuff. But right now, the Giants could have had a much better team. I'll show you guys why, and we'll get into the what could have been depth chart right now for the Giants. So this is the could have been offense in 2019. So the savings would have been Eli Manning of $17 million and Nate Solder shoulder of $12 million. Your quarterback is still Daniel Jones. You have Alex Tanney at backup, who the Giants still love. They love Alex Tanney a lot, so they would have kept him at backup. Your running back would have been Nick Chubb, a very good running back, as I mentioned before. Already has over 1,000 yards this year. He can get it done in a lot of ways. I like him a lot. You still have Wayne Gallman, Javorius Allen, so Chubb would have been pick number 33 overall in 2018 if he traded back from the number 2 pick. Actually, no, the Giants own that pick. Never mind. So that would have been the Will Hernandez pick. I'm sorry. The wide receivers could have been Sterling Shepard. Of course, they have him. I mean, in this move right now, I don't think they would have re-signed him yet because Tyrell Williams would have had the big contract of 4 years, $44 million. But with Tyrell Williams, the Giants would have had a big outside receiver who is not excellent by any means, but he's still a really good receiver in the NFL. So they could have signed a guy like him to definitely help their wide receiver core. They could have added Golden Tate as well, who also had like a similar contract of 4 years and $37 million, I think. Darius Slayton, Cody Latimer. So that's a pretty good wide receiving core for the most part. Your tight ends are still Evan Ingram, Red Ellison, no changes there. But here's the big thing, the offensive line, which we know is still not good, and the Giants definitely could have fixed it. This is why it always annoys me when people say, oh, Gettleman cannot fix this offensive line. Well, here's an example of how it could have been done, and it's really not too far-fetched. So, Andre Dillard. So, they could have taken Dillard with the 17th overall pick in 2019. That's instead of taking Dexter Lawrence. So there's a chance you take him right there. Dillard's been really good for the Eagles so far. I mean, he's filling in for Jason Peters when he's injured, and he has, in college looked really good. Looks like a, potential franchise left tackle. The left guard position could have been Quentin Nelson if he traded back from number 2 to number 6 overall. If the Giants did what the Colts did, basically, they could have had Quentin Nelson number 6 overall. So there's your awesome left guard right there. They could have signed center Mitch Morse in the offseason. So Mitch Morse signed with the Buffalo Bills. I forget what the numbers are. Okay, 4 years, $44 million. The same exact thing as Tyrell Williams. That's funny. But the Giants would have had enough money with the savings of Eli Manning and Nate Solder to make these moves. So I'm not positive it would have worked out with the cap, but it's not like a ridiculous statement to make. So there's your center right there. He's a very good player. Your right guard could have been Connor Williams, who's with the Cowboys currently. He would have been the 49th overall pick with the trade back in 2018. And then your right tackle also could have been from that number 2 trade back in Jawan Taylor. So Jawan Taylor was, thought by some to be the best tackle in this class. So the Giants could have had 2 really good tackles from the 2019 draft class in Andre Dillard and Jawan Taylor. That could have fixed your offensive line right there. I understand both your tackles are very young, but still, to say that Dave Gettleman had no chance to fix this offensive line and all that kind of stuff, not very true in my opinion. So this could have been done. This could have been a very good offensive line for the next 5 years, even longer than that, honestly. So Dillard, Nelson, and Connor Williams and Jawan Taylor, those guys might be around for a decade. So that could have been your very good offensive line right there. The offensive weapons are still pretty good. You had a guy like Tyrell Williams who can make plays on the outside. Nick Chubb at running back. I mean, it's not too much of a drop off in my opinion. I think Nick Chubb is a very good running back. So this offense honestly is probably better than what they have right now. You can, give me your opinion on that. So now let's get into the defense. So on to the defensive side of the ball where they've had a lot of issues this year, obviously. So your savings could have been Alec Ogletree of $12 million and Antoine Bethea of $3 million. Your defensive line could have been Dalvin Tomlinson. You still have Leonard Williams. You still make that trade. RJ McIntosh and BJ Hill. So your defensive line is still the same as we have today. Their inside linebackers, here's a change. Harold Landry, the linebacker for the Titans, as I mentioned before, a very good player. They could have had him if they traded back with the number 2 overall pick in 2018, so he could have been the 37th overall pick that year. Still have Ryan Conley. That was a nice pick by Gettleman there. Deion Buchanan, and they still would have kept B.J. Goodson, in my opinion. The outside linebackers, Marcus Golden, that was a great signing, but you also could have had Shaquille Barrett, who already has like 11.5 sacks this year. And this one I'm not really being a hypocrite about, because if you guys watch my video about my favorite offseason moves, Shaq Barrett was like one of my favorite offseason moves, so I'm not like being a hypocrite about it. I like the guy in Denver. I thought the Giants should have gave him a shot. If it was a 1-year, $5 million deal, they definitely could have matched that. So they could have had both of those guys on 1-year deals. That would have been great. Lorenzo Carter's still there. O'Shane Zimenez still there. The cornerbacks, I believe, they're all still the same. So, I mean, you can't really take out DeAndre Baker right now. I'm not really fully sold on this guy being a bust. I think he'll be fine, but, we'll see how Sam Beal plays and all those type of guys. Corey Ballantyne still has to prove a lot in this league. So the cornerbacks definitely could be an issue still, but it's whatever. The safeties, Jabril Peppers, I still like him there. I think he's going to be a solid player for a long time. The free safety position, so the Giants did bring in Trey Boston for a workout or something like that. Don't know what happened. He went to Carolina, Gettleman's former team, for 1 year, $3 million. Don't know how you take Antoine Bethea over Trey Boston. Trey Boston's had a really good year so far in Carolina as well, so that's definitely disappointing to see. He would have been a massive upgrade over Antoine Bethea, so that sucks. That could have been a very, very big help to our defense, and definitely he was not on a big contract. They still have Julian Love and Michael Thomas. So the Giants, this defense doesn't look too different, but having a inside linebacker for the next decade in Harold Landry, who's a really good player, you would have Trey Boston, who's still like 26 years old or something like that, playing some good free safety, and of course Shaq Barrett, who you would have to re-sign, but at least the Giants have all the leverage in that situation. So this defense honestly is better than what they have right now, so it would have been a bit of an improvement. I don't think this could have been roster is a 12-4 type of team. I think it's a team that could have flirted with 8 or 9 wins this year, but it would not be the embarrassment that the Giants are right now. I think that offensive line in the next couple of years could have been absolutely insane. We'll see how those guys pan out exactly, but we're not sure yet. So for the people that say like, oh, Gettleman had no chance to rebuild this offensive line or even add some players, I mean, that's definitely not true. You look at a thing like this, I mean, this is not too far-fetched. I'm not out here saying like, oh, the Giants could have taken Phillip Lindsay in the 5th round or something stupid like that. You know what I mean? Like, these are realistic options and all that kind of stuff. So I understand that we're not taking any bust here, and that's not realistic, but for the most part, these aren't the craziest moves I've seen. So let me know what you guys think about this entire video. I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate for it because there's a lot of people that still love Dave Gettleman out there. And yeah, you have a right to like the guy. I get it, I guess, but I laid out all the reasons as to why I don't like him, and I'm definitely objective and have my own opinion there, so that's fair. We'll definitely see what happens in the future, but as for right now, it's almost been 2 full years of him being the GM, so I wanted to go over every move. We of course had a bye week this week, so I figured I might as well go over it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I guess I'll talk to you guys about the Giants in probably a week and a half whenever they play next, so I'll talk to you guys next time.